A former Savannah resident serving a life sentence in state prison for murder has been sentenced to 30 years in federal prison for operating a drug trafficking organization while incarcerated. Now, Eugene Allen, aka Poncho, who ages 44, was sentenced to 360 months, that's 30 years, in federal prison for a conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute 500 grams or more of cocaine and 50 kilograms or more of marijuana, said David H. Estes, acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Georgia. Allen was also convicted of the charge by a U.S. District Court judge in August 2019. After completion of his prison term, Allen must serve 8 years of supervised release. There is no parole in the federal system. Now, using contraband cell phones to circumvent prison monitoring of his conspiracy, Eugene Allen directed nearly 24 other outside of the prison to bring large amounts of drugs to the Savannah area for distribution throughout the region, said acting U.S. Attorney Estes. Now, our diligent law enforcement partners shut down the poison distribution network, and Allen is the final member of this conspiracy and now finds himself in federal prison. As described in court documents and testimony, Allen, a high-ranking member of the Gangster Disciples criminal street gang, has been in state prison since 2004 after violating parole on a prior state conviction. In 2006, he was convicted of multiple violent crimes, including murder, and sentenced to life in prison. Now, I'm going to get back to that in just a minute. Now, while incarcerated in Autry State Prison and at Coffee Correctional Facility, Allen used cell phones dropped in by remote control drone aircraft or smuggled via prison guards to direct other members of the conspiracy. In an investigation dubbed by Operation Five Hole started in 2014, the FBI, the Chatham Savannah Counter Narcotics Team, CNT, and the Savannah Police Department determined that those co-conspirators shipped or delivered kilogram amounts of drugs, including cocaine, crack cocaine, heroin, and marijuana from California to Atlanta and then to Savannah for distribution throughout the area, often concealing the shipment in candy machines. Co-conspirators also shipped large quantities of vacuum-sealed cash to pay sources of supply. Allen and the 19 other co-defendants were indicted by a U.S. District Court judge in 2017 for their roles in the drug trafficking conspiracy. All have been adjudicated, 17 found guilty and sentenced to 2 cases dismissed. Another 12 related defendants also have been sentenced. Many of the defendants were also convicted and sentenced for related state charges. So I did some research about Mr. Poncho, about what all the things that he's done in Savannah, and about the homicide that took place that he was involved in, or he actually did the murder. It took place in 2004 of May 26. Now, I'm reading it off of the article as it says, Raheem Wilson, aka robbed Poncho the afternoon of May 26, 2004, one criminal taking drugs and money from another. A Chatham County jury decided Thursday that Poncho took quick revenge, shooting Rah in the head 7 hours later in Hitch Village Projects. Poncho, whose real name is Eugene Allen, was found guilty on murder and other charges. At the time, Allen, who age was 29 at that time, will get life in prison for the shooting death of 20-year-old Raheem Wilson, known as Rah on the street. Another 20 years could have been added for 2 assault convictions, including an injury to a bystander, Reggie Johnson, who was shot in the ass. Now, the guilty verdict was followed 3 days of testimony by a group of witnesses, both the prosecutor and the defense attorney called less than credible. Most are incarcerated. Stories they told police last year, accounts corroborated by evidence, suddenly changed on the witness stand. Defense attorney Willie T. Yancey II called them jailbird testimonies, fabricated to curry lighter sentences, and then changed when deals never materialized. But after deliberating for 5 hours, jurors in the end believed that the narrative laid out by Savannah Chatham Metropolitan Police Detective Robert Gavin and prosecutor Christy Barker. 7 hours after the run-in between the two men, Allen drove with 2 friends to Hitch Village Projects off East Broad Street, where he heard Wilson was hanging out. Allen sneaked up from behind Wilson, who was sitting on a step with a friend, and shot him in the back of the head. A shootout followed, almost a dozen shots fired in all. Allen was grazed in the leg with a bullet, but escaped. The case remained cold until 2005, when Gavin received information in the wake of memorial for Wilson held by family members, and that memorial His funeral was June the 3rd of 2004, but during that memorial, the trial led to Allen, who was already in jail for cocaine trafficking conviction. It was a revenge killing. That's all that it was, said Mr. Barker in his closing arguments. But it's not okay just because Rah did some bad things to shoot him. There's a place for robbers and a place for drug dealers. It's called jail.